So when we talk about a system, it usually is referring to a very high look at motivational loops and the little black boxes that occur of micromechanics, right? So if we look at an RPG, any RPG, any ever made ever, you've got a very simple system of like, you get some stuff that makes you stronger to kill bigger monsters, to get better stuff, to do that for the rest of your life. Like that's that system, right? And there's lots of little systems in there, right? So for example, what does better loot mean? Better loot can totally mean like the stats on that loot. It could be what it looks like. It could be get into all of the other variables of combat, right? Most of this is referred to combat, but it's like, what's the range on my weapon? Does it have ammo? Does it have a cooldown? Does it give me an ability? Does it do trample damage? Does it let me fly? Does it cost this much mana? Is it mana efficient? Does it do this much damage? Does it have a crit chance? Like, you name it, there's a whole bunch of other systems going on, but none of them actually talk about the content. They're just talking about here is the rules of how these things flow into each other. But your game's ecosystem may not look like this. In fact, it probably doesn't look like this. You should know what your game's motivation loop looks like, right? So if we go like back to my Victorian flower game, that's a game that I would imagine to have multiple loops, right? And so in this case, like if anyone forgets that game, it's Victorian flower arrangement. I'm going to different parties, and there's different fads of what's popular. So I make flowers. I make good flowers. So when I make good flowers in one light, I profit. And if I go for the right circle, I'm profiting because I'm selling good flowers. When I profit, I get better stuff to make better flowers. Great. I can keep doing that circle, right? So nice flowers, sells for more money. I can have better seeds, better irrigation, better you name it, right? But on the other side, if I make better flowers, I get more customers, and those customers give me intel about what's popular. So I can make better flowers, so I can get more customers. And so this is where it starts to become, I should actually make this game. I really should. And most games have good, where like systems tie into other systems, right? Like, and I imagine your game will be like that. There is player-to-player marketplaces. So this is currently a business model that operates outside of and sometimes illegally from the core game. This is, while sometimes the company tries to figure out a way to monetize on it, or sometimes they try to find a way to prevent it from occurring, it is something that you need to just be aware occurs, right? And so most games that have a true free market, this will happen, right? If you let players freely trade items, you will have one of these, which is why if you ever watch any of the interviews or questions about Diablo 4, like what can be traded, what can't be traded, like a lot of people want a free market. The problem with free market is there's real life that has real money, right? And I can be like, oh, you have a thing, here's real money I'll give you for this fake thing, and it happens, right? So it can be exploited, right? You can have people corner the market, right? You can have real life mess up your game economy. And when your game economy only exists in the game, you have far more control. So you just have to be mindful of these types of things. Systems that promote teamwork can also be profited from, right? Like gold farmers can get a whole group of people to gold farm together. The other thing is there are different government regulations that you need to keep in mind with these types of things. Like your players might be doing something illegal, even though you're not doing anything illegal. And governments are like, you can't have players doing that. And you're like, but we can't stop them from, and then you get into trouble. So it's like, it's a thing. The Diablo 3 auction house is a good example of a company trying to fix it. Like they were genuinely trying to make the game better so people wouldn't get like money stolen from them trying to buy a thing. It just didn't go very well. So a little bit on the 1-1-1 stages of fun of what the game is. This is just kind of where I want your heads at, is like, I'm playing the game for 1 minute. What am I doing, right? Am I dodging attacks, swinging swords, passing a car, shooting a monster? Like this is, I literally like just someone was playing the game and I walked in on them and I see them doing something in 1 minute. Like, is it League of Legends? Am I trying to target a stupid tower? Like that's the 1 minute. That hour of fun is, what is a loop that I'm actually playing? So action RPG, it's like, okay, yeah, I did a dungeon, right? I found some monsters, I killed some monsters, I opened a treasure chest, I got a thing, I upgraded some gear. Like that's kind of an hour, right? Whereas, or one play session. Not all of your games, if you're making board games or card games, are going to have this last bullet, the 1 week, the 1 month, the 1 year, right? Like there's not necessarily, I've reached level 70 in Monopoly, right? There's no like I'm mastering a new skill while playing blackjack. Some of the games, if there is a skill of getting good at the game, that's part of the 1 month. If we talk about a game that I assume most people have played or at least are aware of, we can talk about how do we improve a game, right? So is Monopoly fun? So there is some problems with Monopoly. One of which is there is a loss of drama and engagement, right? So the leader or leaders of Monopoly become more and more wealthy, and they can penalize other players. They get more powerful, so they're winning, and they become even better at winning, right? And poorer players keep getting more and more poor because they don't really have the power to come back out of it, right? And as that kind of separation of classes form in Monopoly, if you're poor, you don't really care, right? You're like, well, there's nothing I can do to come back, right? Now, maybe this is a very dark window into real life, but let's ignore that for a time being, because I would also argue that like it's also kind of boring for the winners too. So we've talked a little bit about data here, right? With data, we have the way things are tuned, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, if for example, to go back to the loot example, we added a feature in Diablo 2 Resurrected. We added auto gold pickup, all right? Now, auto gold pickup was almost universally liked by most players. However, it was a subject of ridiculous controversy within the team. And a lot of people said, no, you're going to fundamentally change how people play the game. And the reason for it actually has to do with data. And so in Diablo 2, you move and pick things up by clicking on them, right? You don't just walk over them. You have to move to it and pick it up. Now, if a big monster dies, the screen gets full of lots of crap you don't like, right? It's got grays, it got blue, but oh, look, a Zod rune, stick in there somewhere, right? But there's also a whole bunch of gold that falls on the ground, and it's peasily gold, right? And in fact, if you play Diablo 2 enough, you know that gold doesn't really matter at a certain point because you can only hold so much of it. So, but the argument that people had about not allowing auto gold pickup was the act of clicking a thing that was not gold was part of the game, right? And so by saying, oh, all the money drops and it automatically gets picked up by the whole party and shared is a very nice quality of life, but now you've just made it way easier for people to see the exact thing they need to pick up. And so we actually like changed how looting would feel. We can't talk about systems though without economies, and economies usually means monies, but it's not always monies, right? Like how much mana you have to cast a spell is a form of an economy, right? So it's one of those things that will help with your rules. Okay, so we've talked a lot about scarcity being an economy, right? Monsters are rare, or ammo is rare. Monsters are hard, promotes running away, right? You can do the other way. Ammo is plentiful, monsters are rare. Well, now you've just turned it into a seek out every little monster in every dark corner and destroy them, right? Like literally just changing those two numbers, those two economies, and you've changed the, are you hunted or are you the prey or are you the predator kind of deal.